All right, we are live. Hey, Linda.
Hey, Kristi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Better since you showed up on my screen.
Oh, good. I like to hear that. I love to see your beautiful smiling face.
Thank you.
So I just got off of another Facebook Live in my private Facebook group. I'm doing the Tale of Two Sisters
Yeah.
this week. So I just finished the first session of that, and that was really fun and amazing. I'm excited about the rest of this week. So
I
y'all are
wanted to talk a little bit about that. I mean, I guess you've been talking in your groups, but I see your posts because we're friends, and I think it's just amazing what that whole story, how it just is a great portrayal of the choices that we make, creating certain outcomes in our life. So it's a very powerful story. And do you want to talk about it a little bit here, or have you been talking about it so much that?
yeah, I do think it's really powerful. And I um it's interesting, Linda, because obviously, it was only 6 months ago that my sister passed away. And so it's still a little bit hard for me to talk about, but I got through the whole first session without any tears. So that was good, I guess. But I do think that this is an opportunity for me to not just carry out my mission on this planet, which is helping women change their health and their lives so that they go out and impact their families' lives and their community and the world. I really do believe that this is world-changing work, right? It starts with us individually. And then when we change our health and we change how we're showing up in our families, that impacts our families, that impacts our places of work, it impacts our community. And together, if enough of us are doing this work and showing up differently, like the sky's the limit, right? We can change the world. And so I feel so passionately about it. And I also feel like on a very personal level that this is, I get to carry on my sister's legacy, right? Like
Yes,
she's not here with us on this planet anymore, but that doesn't mean she's gone. She lives on through her children, through me and everyone else who continues her work and who shares her message.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it feels like an enormous honor and privilege and just a really special thing to get to share this.
I really resonate with that, Kristi, because as you know, I lost my daughter. It'll be 3 years in June. And Charlotte's journey, it's obviously different, but what you just said is very similar because Charlotte was really, really a joyful soul who, if anybody on the planet should have been miserable, it should have been her, just fighting for her life from the moment she was born, every minute of her life. And she was always smiling and happy. And so I've chosen to take her spirit, like to kind of do the same thing, like it's an honor because I learned from it. That's not how I was showing up in the world, I can tell you, and to really look and see and understand that we do have a choice. We have a choice in every moment, no matter what is showing up, on how we're going to respond and how we're going to be about it. And if we choose putting ourselves last, making everybody else's life work, but caving in under the stress, which sounds like, maybe a little bit of how your sister lived, from such a good heart to just try to make everything else work. Or if we choose to be upset and angry at the things that have happened to us, which was the lesson I learned from Charlotte, that I don't have to be upset and angry, even when the most devastating thing happens. So it really is an opportunity to say we can choose. And like you started the conversation with, if each person took that on just individually, and my thing is that women are the hub of the household. I always say that, like, how the woman goes is how the household goes. I mean, in certain areas for sure, and the men definitely have, what they bring to the table. But I feel like the way the woman is navigating life really ripples out into the children and to the partner. And so if women are not well, bogged down, sick in their body or their spirit or both, that kind of ripples out. But to your point, if we take it on, each one of us, then that ripples out of like, no, not doing that. Nope, not, I'm going to be an example of health, wellness, spiritual joy.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I know your story is so powerful, Linda. And I think, the fact that you were able to take that grief that no mother should ever have to go through and take the lessons from that and carry her legacy on without it just destroying you. I mean, that is such a testament to your fortitude and grace and and to everything that you teach, right?
Well, that's
You,
that.
you practice, you are now teaching what you practiced and what has allowed you to thrive and live a joyful life despite unimaginable grief.
Thank you. Yeah, but it's really like what you said. Saying I'm going to take this person's essence and their story, and I'm going to continue to share it and be it and use it in a way that makes a difference, because that ultimately is why we're all here. Your sister was all about making a difference for people, right? So if her story is continuing to make a difference, it's exactly what she wanted to do.
Right.
So
yeah, absolutely. So we said we were going to talk about stress and how beliefs that you're not even aware of might impact your stress or create physiological stress in your body that keeps you sick. Um, so it's shifting the topic a little bit, but I wonder, Linda, if you have thoughts on how grief plays into that. I mean, grief obviously is a stressor.
yes, it is.
And it absolutely can harm our mental, emotional, and physical wellness if we allow it to, if we take on that grief.
Yeah, I think grief is one of several emotions that people don't want to feel, um, don't allow themselves to fully feel and express, anger, frustration, shame. It's kind of in that category of emotions that we just sort of shove down, even if it shows up like, no, 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 I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm good. Like that. Or, so that's one part of it. And I'm a heart math practitioner. Are you as right? Yeah. So in heart math, they say there's not positive and negative emotions. They're all human emotions. Some emotions are depleting and some emotions are renewing. So how much time do you spend in the depleting emotions and how much time do you spend in the renewing emotions, which is a great frame to look at it through. So to me, grief is either something that people are shoving down, no, 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 I got this, white knuckling through, and then it stays in their body, or they overstay their welcome in grief and don't move through it. Like a lot of people, it can become their identity. I'm the woman who lost a child, right? That becomes who I am. And then, people, and that happens, I think, for people because they get some recognition out of that. They get some significance. They get some whatever out of it. So, and I'm saying that because like when I get on the phone with people and a lot of times women will say, this happened and I've been so sad, it just devastated me. And I'll say, when did that happen? 26 years ago. like they're still devastated 26 years later. So some of that is not allowing the grief to move through, and some of that is holding on to it because it kind of becomes who they are. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that applies, like those two things apply to so many different areas in addition to grief. I mean, I agree 100%. We have to allow ourselves to feel the feelings, to feel the grief, to feel the emotions, and to move through it, right? Rather than just stuffing it down. Because when we stuff down whatever the depleting emotion is, if it's grief, if it's frustration or anger or pain or resentment, whatever it is, if we don't feel it and move it through our body, we just stuff it down. It becomes trapped in our body and creates disease. Right?
Absolutely.
Right. So I think that is so incredibly important. And then the other thing that occurred to me as you were talking about, like taking on the identity of the woman who lost a child or the widow or, whatever it is, I see that so often in women that I talk to too, where they've taken on the identity of their autoimmune disease or whatever it is. Well, I have lupus. That's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I think we do that so commonly because it gives us significance. It gives us an identity. It gives us a place to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not only like like even before a diagnosis shows up, people take on the identity of I'm the martyr. I do everything for everybody, which leads to the diagnosis. That's the thing that's going to make you sick, right?
Right.
But I do everything for everybody, or I'm the one, who I'm the smart one, so I'm the one who has to handle things, or I'm the victim. So it's those roles as well, which go back to the beliefs that you have that have you take on those roles. But then if you're in a role like that for years and years, you're exhausting yourself and you're not tapping into the entire other parts of you because they don't fit into that role of who you think you are.
Yeah.
So those things are going on even before the health stuff shows up. But I think the health stuff is directly related to that.
Yes, absolutely. And that was such a beautiful segue back to our topic.
I didn't even notice. This is what popped into my head.
Right. No, but it's so true that, and that's what we had decided we were going to talk about today is how our beliefs that are often subconscious, we don't even realize that we have these beliefs sometimes, but they are creating our reality and often creating our physical health or disease state, either way, right?
Yes.
Our beliefs can create a vibrant, energized health, or they can create disease. And it's not obviously solely the belief. There's other factors, but
it's a big part.
It's a big part of it. It's a really big part.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a great story from years ago. I'm way older than you. Do you remember the Reader's Digest?
Of course I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think you're that much older than me.
So, we used to have them in the bathroom, right? So you could like grab a Reader's Digest and park yourself for a while. And I was in, gosh, probably my early 20s. I mean, it's been a minute since I read this, and it was long before I was doing this kind of work with people, but the story always stuck with me. You remember how Reader's Digest used to be, it would have different categories, like it would have hometown hero, and it would have a story, and there was always humor in uniform, which was the military jokes, and then the other regular jokes. So it had these consistent topics I guess it was every month they came out. And so one of those topics was like unbelievable stories, like stuff that you would just blow your mind. And there was a story of a man, I share this sometimes with my clients when we're talking about this, but there was a story of a man who worked on the railroad station, and it was the end of the day. They were finishing up, and I guess they would lock up the train cars for the night. And so it was just him and this one other guy. And he said to the other guy, I got it. You go ahead out and leave. I'll finish up. And so he went in and he was doing that. And he went into one train. I don't, I'm making this up because I really don't remember why he went in. Let's say there was a light on. And then when he went to leave, he couldn't get out. The door was locked. So he was locked inside the train car. And then he realized it was the refrigeration car, and that it was, for transporting like frozen meat. So he started to think about how it was going to be getting cold, and he just sent the other guy home, and he was the last one. So he would be spending the night, and that he wouldn't survive that. Did you ever read this? Mm-hmm. So amazing. So he actually had, like, in his pocket, he had some paper, and in his wallet, and he wrote a note to his wife, like just saying how much he loved her and whatever. And then he started to do a chronological thing of what his body was experiencing. It's getting cold. I'm shivering. So he was writing it down, feeling sleepy. And in the morning they got there and he was dead. He died. The refrigeration car was not turned on. It didn't get cold. But he didn't know that. He believed it was plugged in or on or whatever. I guess because he had gone inside before he went outside to complete whatever. So he thought, I'm in a refrigeration car and clearly I'm going to freeze to death. And he did. Like, his body had the signs of being frozen, but the car had never gone cold, which I think is so amazing, right? The power of our belief. Like, he just was like, that's it, I'm done. And he willed it to himself, like, and it was the Reader's Digest true story thing. It wasn't fiction. And so I always remember that now that I do this work with people, because if a man can think himself to death overnight, right? What are we doing with our thoughts and beliefs every day, year after year? What are we creating?
That is so powerful. So powerful. And I always think, like, what are we doing when someone goes to the doctor and they get a cancer diagnosis and are told they have a year to live? Like, how often do they live a year?
Exactly.
And I don't think, like, not to denigrate any physicians, but I don't think it's because their skills or prediction are so good. I think it's because the patient believes them.
Yeah, they live into it.
And they live into that prediction. And yeah, and we can do the same thing in reverse. That is the empowering thing about this story. Is that, and that's one of the first things I work with clients on is their beliefs about their body. If you believe that your body is sick and broken and failing you, you're going to get one result. If you believe that your body is amazing and brilliantly designed and made to be well, if you know how to serve and support it properly, that is the result you will get as well.
Yep, absolutely. My daughter, the night she was born, was rushed for open heart surgery, and then we had just multiple things. And at some point in the first 5 months of her life, a doctor said, she's never going to blah, blah, blah. She's never gonna, she's never gonna, she's never gonna, she's never gonna. And we had a therapist in the PICU who said, he doesn't really know what she's going to do. She's a newborn. So the ability of the brain of newborns, to figure out an alternative, its neural pathways. A big reason was she had a stroke after her open heart surgery. So that was the damage from the stroke. And this PT said to me, who later became our dear friend, and I almost changed her middle name to be his last name because I loved him so much. But thankfully, I met him early in her journey. And when he said this, it allowed us to shift our perspective. But he said a newborn's, all those neural pathways are not developed yet. So yes, there's damage where things would normally fire and go, but her brain will figure out other ways to do it if you keep working with her. And, you know, and we did. And, a lot of stuff that he said she would never do was wrong. She did them. But that's because we were like, yeah, okay, thanks. And just kept like pursuing. And she did a lot of stuff more than, he ever thought. So that's to your testament, like you can do it in the opposite too, right? You just, so yeah, I'm sure everybody can look and think about their own lives and maybe examples of that. And when did I just like give up because I was told, this is what's possible.
Right. Right.
So,
yeah, I think our beliefs are so powerful. And to go back to kind of the theme of what we said we were going to talk about today is how beliefs relate to stress. And so you can take on that depleting belief and allow that to create physiological stress in your body. You could have said, oh my gosh, Charlotte's never going to be able to do X, Y, and Z, and taken that as truth. And that would have created stress in your body.
right.
Or you can say, you don't know what's possible.
Yeah.
Right? I have enormous faith
Yeah.
in God. I have faith in this child. I have faith in her amazing body. And you don't know what's possible.
Right.
Right? So we can allow those beliefs to create stress in our bodies. We can live in this place where we're stuck in the predictable, right? Where we can only see what is proven to exist or proven to be true or what we're told by the experts.
Yep.
Or we can live in a place where anything is possible.
Yep. Yeah. And like in terms of stress, like here's a pretty simple. So those were kind of heavy examples, right? Big examples. But here's a kind of like a more normal one, maybe that more people can relate to. Like if you growing up, your mom says, don't go near dogs. Dogs are bit, like you're little, you're 4 or 5 or whatever. And either your mom was bit by a dog, so she's afraid, or she's just being cautionary and says to you as a child, dogs are dangerous. Don't go up to that dog, right? Now you're 30 years old and you're walking down the street and somebody's coming with a dog and you immediately are like, there's fear, all of a sudden fear in your body. Now, nothing ever happened to you. You were never bitten because it was made sure you never even went near one, right? But here's this dog headed your way, and maybe it's like a golden retriever, all happy, pappy, whatever, but you have fear. So your body immediately goes into stress. And the belief, so you have a thought, this dog's coming at me, it's going to bite me. That's the meaning that you give what's happening. I'm going to get bitten. The meaning comes from the belief that you were told at 5 years old, dogs are bad. So that belief wasn't even yours. It wasn't even your experience. It was just something that someone who was a significant person in your life told you. And then it became a thing that you believed. And now every time you see a dog in your vicinity, you feel your body tighten up, you get nervous, whatever, get that dog away from me, because you make a meaning that now you're in danger. So talking about stress, right? Things like that are happening throughout people's day all the time. And that's a pretty easy one to see. If you don't have a thing with dogs, you might have a thing with something else.
Yeah, with spiders or whatever it is.
Yeah, or deadlines at work, right? If I miss a deadline, I'm bad and I'm going to be fired.
Yes.
Because somebody gave you a message when you were young about deadlines and the importance of showing up your best or whatever.
Yes. I have always been a super OCD type A personality. And so things like that, like being late to an appointment, like you're not late to an appointment in my world. Like you're 5 minutes early. And I don't know where I took on that belief, but I did. And so I had to do a lot of work to reprogram my brain because I would be driving somewhere. And if we were running late, I would be having a near panic attack to be like, oh my gosh, we're going to be late. Everything is going to be terrible. Like this person is going to think that I am a terrible person because I'm late, like whatever is driving that. And I had to look at what I was doing to myself and realize it's okay. These thoughts are creating a physiological stress response that is harming my health. It's harming my mental and emotional well-being in this moment. And it's harming my long-term health.
Right.
I don't want to do that. Why am I doing this? Right? Like, does it really matter if I'm 5 minutes late for this appointment?
Right.
Is anyone even going to notice, much less care? Like, is it worth risking my health? And so I had to have these conversations with myself over and over and over and be like, yeah, no. Yeah, why would I allow this to create a stress response in my body? So yeah, I think that's a really good example and a place where we get to choose.
Right.
Right. And I always teach my clients, your thoughts are what create the stress response. So you change the thoughts and you change the stress response. You can turn off a stress response like that, like the flip of a switch, if you control your thoughts. But what you're saying is even a step deeper in that we have to look not just at the thoughts, but we have to look at the beliefs that were creating the thoughts. So in my case, somewhere in my life, I developed a belief that being late was wrong or shameful or not okay for me.
Right.
For some reason.
Right.
And not that I want to go through life being late all the time, but no one's going to die if I'm late for an appointment. Right. I'm not going to live in shame for the rest of my life if I'm late for a dentist appointment.
And it might have been, Kristi, you know, if you sat and thought about it for a minute or two, I don't know, but I'm just going to make this up. It might have been like in first grade, you were late, you walked in, and either the way the teacher responded or even just the whole class turned and looked at you, and that 6-year-old little girl went, oh, they're all looking at me. I don't ever want to feel that again.
Yeah.
Even if it was just that can do it. Or an adult was like, you know, my father used to make really powerful blanket statements. You know, he would say, people who swear aren't intelligent enough to think better words. Like he would make statements like that where you're like, oh my God, well, I better never swear because clearly then I'm stupid, you know? So if an adult says one thing, like people who are late are disrespectful and bad people because they clearly don't value other people's times. That's their thing. But now you hear that and you go, oh my gosh, I don't want to be that. It becomes a really big deal.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting.
Yeah.
But when you actually do go a step deeper, it's a lot easier to dismantle it quickly because now you see the ridiculousness of it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And even if you don't know, you know, what created that belief in you, once you realize that belief was created by a child who didn't have an ability to understand or judge whether that statement is true or not, or whether that belief is true or not. It was created by a little child. You go back and you love into that little child and you tell her that belief is simply not true and that she doesn't need to go throughout her entire life harming her health out of panic at being late. Right. And I would, I don't really anymore, but for many years when I sort of had this realization, when I was first doing a lot of work around stress, I would have these conversations with myself. I would say, Kristi, this is so silly. Like you're stressed out, you're snapping at your kids because they're not getting in the car fast enough. You're making everyone miserable, including yourself, because you don't want to be 5 minutes late to an appointment. I mean, really?
Right.
No one's going to die in this scenario.
That's the woman is the hub of the household, because now you're like that. Now the kids are like, mommy's upset, you know, it becomes this whole ripple out effect.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah, I had a belief I should go do my hair and makeup before I do a live with anybody. And then I and then and then life happened and I decided I'm going to let that belief go. Um, so yeah, but I'm joking because I'm looking at the two of us on the screen going, look at Kristi, man. She's look at Linda. She is not. But my point is, there would have been a time. So I was doing stuff. I was on a support ticket online. I didn't have control over that. And then the dogs hadn't gone to the bathroom. I had to walk them. And then I was like, all right, I can either be late but look better, or I can show up and give up that I, have to look like I just, stepped out of, whatever. And I was like, but that used to be stressful for me. That would have been a stressful thing. Now I'm like, I'm here to talk to you. And it really, is what it is. So we can really look at a lot of different little nuances throughout our day and release so much that causes us angst and worry and upset. And then those kind of weave together into our identity,
Yes.
right? That identity of a martyr or a perfectionist,
Yes.
or, the pack horse who does everything for everyone. So it weaves into our identity, and then boom, you have, your health is really a mess. Or if it's not your health, it's your relationship, because people around you are walking on eggshells or always picking up the pieces if you're the victim one, right?
Yep.
They're always helping you. So
Yep.
it really is a whole thing.
Yes. Yes. So much power in that. I always say I'm a recovering perfectionist. And I think that being late is probably part of that.
Yeah.
That I have to be perfect. Right. And so, yeah, I have given up a lot of that lately in recent years. And so I guess what I would suggest for people listening who, if this is resonating with you and you're thinking, yeah, this is something I really need to work on, is just start paying attention to what happens in your body and to the patterns of when you feel your stress levels rising.
Mm.
And then look at the thoughts that preceded that stress response in your body.
Yes.
And start changing those thoughts. And then dig one layer deeper and start looking at the beliefs behind those thoughts. So one of the most stressful times of my day used to be when my kids were younger, would be when we all got home from school and we had, maybe 45 minutes to get homework done, get a snack, get back out the door to whatever activities they had. And that was a really stressful time of day for me because, 4 kids, I had 3 in school, 1 little one, not yet in school. They all were needing things. Everybody was wanting snack. Everybody was wanting help with their math homework or whatever it was. And I was just like, oh, and I would feel my stress level going up. And I finally decided, I don't want to live like this.
Right.
And so I started thinking, how can I change my thoughts around this time of day so that it's not stressful? Like, it is what it is. I can't change the fact that I have 4 kids who all need things and we have to be back out the door in 45 minutes. I can't change the situation, but I can change how I'm thinking about and responding to the situation. So one of the really simple flips for me when it comes to things like that with my kids is to think of how sad I'm going to be when my house is quiet and empty in a few years, and how much I'm going to miss this chaos and the mommy, I need a snack, mommy, I need help, mommy this, mommy that. Right. And already even my kids are 14. They don't do that anymore. Right. That's not a stressful time of day for us anymore. So that phase didn't last.
Right.
So look at the areas in your life that the times a day that are stressful, the situations that are stressful, and just start shifting your thoughts around those to stop that stress response in its tracks.
Yeah. And you could even, like, for your example, it could be like what do I think is really important as a mom? Like, what are my rules around being a mom and how I show up? What do I want my children to remember when they are grown about me? And when you kind of take a step back and go, well, do I think it's that I've handled everybody perfectly and we're like regimented, or are my rules around being a mom more of we might blow it, we might be late, we might whatever, but they knew we would be cracking up in the car the whole time. Like, which is the rule that I want for
Yep.
to define me as a mom, or something like that.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Good stuff.
Well,
All
we
right.
learn along the way, right? I mean,
Yes. Yes. So much. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
I don't think so. I just was so looking forward to chatting with you today. I've been seeing your posts about A Tale of Two Sisters, and I think it's just so brave and courageous of you to share the story of your sister and to put it into that perspective for people. I think it'll be very healing for you and maybe for your family. So kudos to you on that. And I hope a lot of people are participating and listening to you, because I know it's going to be, how many days is it this week? All
It's
week?
3 days. Today was the first day, and you can still hop in the group and watch the replay if you'd like. I'll post the link for that group below this video for anybody who wants to join in. And Linda, do you want to let people know where they can find you?
Yeah, my Facebook page is Linda Downey Coach, or Instagram is at Linda Downey Coaching. And my website is lindagdowney.com, because there's another Linda Downey who does real estate. So I had to put my maiden initial in there. So it's lindagdowney.com is my website. But if you had any questions about anything, I have a health background, as you do, for like 37 years, but my focus really now is on stress with women. Like, that's the one thing that I really target and go deep with people. So if that's, something that people have a question on, or anything really, but I mean, that's when I focus now, I would be happy to answer it for you.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This was so much fun, Linda. We need to do it more often. I miss chatting with you. And
You should do it like once a month. We could talk about something.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
we can always come up with something to talk about.
Okay, Kristi, I would love that.
All
So
right.
have a great rest of your week with your event, and
Yeah,
thank you
thank
for
you so
taking the
much.
time out. Yeah. Talk to you later.
Okay, talk to you soon.
Bye.